Hey everyone, and welcome to the Blood Swamps update video. Compared to ACA, Blood Swamps is a level that is much tougher to break, so not much actual route changes happened, especially when comparing the two. I did however gain a better understanding of the route, so I have a few more tips for you. Starting off with the Marauder Fun Zone, I actually started using an older setup, which has you standing on this chainsaw pickup. The setup is nice because, unlike with standing in front of him, you're not leading the projectiles of the Revenant and Mank into the Marauder, but away from him, making a mist hook much safer than before. Two things to note about this setup. One is that you should wait until after he does his green eyes attack before starting the combo, so you don't cause him to pull up shield by shooting too early. And second is that the direction the Marauder faces is based on where you stand by the time his spawn animation starts. If, for example, you don't immediately move to the chainsaw after killing the Pinky, he will be looking in the complete opposite direction, waste time turning around, and might even ruin the fun zone. This is an absolutely wonderful game. All the more reason to wait with the combo until the attack happens. As long as you're careful, this shouldn't be that much of an issue. It stopped bothering me after I learned what was causing it. Moving up here, let me show you how I do the movement after the button. If you follow the ballista routing properly until this point, you should have 150 plasma by the time you get here. When we make it to the torch fights, in order to leave the first fight with 250, we need to enter with 75. So until then, we have 3 ballista shots to play with. I personally like to spend 1 after the button and 2 after the punch boost, but it's really a matter of preference. Once you touch the circle arena, a 4-second timer will count down before the door opens. So rather than go for the door, I land as soon as possible and then hook off the zombie to conserve my momentum going in. Landing soon and hooking to the door is recommended for everyone, but the weird roundabout movement to conserve your speed saves at most 2 seconds. If you're interested, know that it's a balancing act between the hook speed and your angle. Faster hook needs a wider angle, slower needs a narrow angle. You enter the door at the same time, so just try to find a balance between the speed and angle that will let you make it in smoothly. Jumping forward into the second torch fight, we have an update for your movement up here. It now has a name. Introducing Tree Skip, brought to you by yours truly with massive help from Nova25. Nova's channel will be in the description. They have some great stuff in there. About the skip itself though, I like to separate it into 2 sections when thinking about it. The corridor and the open swamp. The corridor starts with a weapon wheel dash boost plus ballista off the slope, then a ballista to start building momentum. Make sure you shoot the horizontal boost at a wider angle so it doesn't give you optimal speed, since after the next ballista shot you want to be up right here. And an optimal ballista boost will more often send you past the ground and right down there instead. Also be careful of this wall. Not only can you stand here, but these spikes have collision. That was the optimal way to do tree skip, but this passage is very open to interpretation. For instance, at the start here, this wall can be wall dashed. The walls on the passage itself can be wall dashed. At the end of the passage, you can wall dash on this wall too. There are many ways to go about this, and with both the blueprint for the optimal strats and the replacements, I recommend trying to create your own variation. Here's a few I came up with. Once you've reached this part, we have another update for you, and it's an edge boost right over here. Drake's playlist already goes over edge boost, so I won't go into too much detail, but I will say that this geometry is very weird. I find it easier to set myself up in this part of the circle and stare at the pole before going backwards, then dashing after the Slayer has completely stopped moving. If you don't like the edge boost, going up to the platforms isn't that much of a time loss, and you can even do this. Up top, there are two new options for going upwards on top of the dash boost. Neither too difficult, but one is a bit riskier than the other. The less risky method is a yeet hook that looks like this. Walk up against this rock to set yourself up, make sure to throw a grenade down and kill the tentacle, then hook off the soldier. To make sure this works, you need to hook slightly after you reach the peak of your second jump. It's fully consistent, so it's a matter of practice when it comes to getting the timing down. It's also possible to get a backup boost off the tree. A bit rarer though. The second method is another edge boost that looks like this. This one is a bit tricky because of this soldier that drops down here. Rather than being used for a yeet hook, he's very excited to be able to slap the shit out of you and ruin your setup. If you don't get it first try, SSG him to death and try again. The geometry makes this edge boost easier than the previous one, but it's still important to wait until the Slayer stops moving before dashing. Also, if you're using the scroll wheel setup for edge boosts, where you bind scroll to backwards and use 2 ticks on low FPS to set it up perfectly every time, you'll end up with a very vertical boost, whereas those who tap backwards with the right timing will have a boost with a bit more angle to it. Scroll users should ballista up with the first boost and then add a horizontal boost, while tappers, as I like to call them, should add 2 vertical boosts, since an angled boost is also slightly lower. If any of these strats fail, good old meat hook up the pole and meat hook up again, which I explained in the old routes tutorial. The trial fight has another minor reroute, so I'll show you a clip first. Everything after the Archfall spawns is exactly the same, but the first part of the fight got a bit faster. Rather than getting to the BFG, we book it to the Baron so we can double deblade them as soon as possible, then get to the BFG right before shooting it. Get to the upper part of the ramp, climb here, and get ready to slob the spider. If we slob too late, he can move behind the wall and live, so if you have trouble with him, I recommend not ice bombing the Baron and using it on him instead. Then dash back and chainsaw this spider. After you do, look back at the first spider to make sure he's dead and rush him down if he isn't. If he does die, dash once to the plasma and double dash to the archvile. This route exists mainly to allow us to chainsaw inside the fight rather than before it, which makes this chainsaw practically free. Jumping all the way forward to the Marauder here, just to let you know that you can use the wall to align yourself in a way that lets you dash backwards right underneath the button like so. I actually look even farther to the right before the second dash to avoid going around the pillar. I've actually had a few times where I ballista boosted upwards not knowing I was gonna bonk on the ceiling. Even worse when you only have 1 shot left. But at least it means I get to help you avoid that mistake. Skipping even farther to the left side trial, not too much changed since last episode. However, we did start incorporating double D blades. After you see the Hell Knight die and jump up to the buff totem, you can swap your weapon mods and then cancel that animation with punching the buff totem, then hold ballista during the animation to have it pulled up when it ends. We do that for both buff totems to set up double D blades on the Tyrants and Barons. Here's a clip of the fight including that. And that's pretty much it for blood swamps. Thank you very much for watching.